Hello, Nala. You're a good girl, aren't you? You're going to watch me do some aquascaping? Yeah? I wonder what Tommy would make of you. Who likes this t-shirt? Hi everyone, George here. Very excited to bring you a brand new video all about how we're going to aquascape this beautiful aquarium here. It's been a long time actually since I've done one of these, so really excited for this one. A full tutorial explaining what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. We'll talk about the equipment in detail, the hardscape process, the plants, etc. But a bit of a background, I'm very grateful to be invited down to do this by my new friends Elliot and Lucy. And it's just really lovely to create something hopefully beautiful for them to enjoy, and their daughter Sky and their dog, what's the dog called? Nala. I always forget. Apparently named after Lion King, embarrassingly, a film that I've not seen yet. And best of all, no worries. I'm really looking forward to it. We've got a huge selection of interesting plants, lots of different textures, colours, got some beautiful high impact hardscape which I hand selected at Aquarium Gardens. Elliot and I have been in conversation for a couple of months now, and today is the day that we get to scape this beautiful aquarium. Hopefully I'm going to come down in 6 months time or so once it's all grown in and do an update for you. But yeah, really excited for this one, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, do consider subscribing. Hit the thumbs up if you do enjoy the video, and drop me a comment, of course, what fish would you put in here? So I'll just run through some of the equipment quickly before we start the aquascaping process. Starting from the top, we've got the amazing Kessil A360X Tuna Sun. These are a high-end LED unit with point source. So what that means is you get this beautiful shimmer effect, especially apparent when you have some surface agitation. It reflects the light and you get this beautiful kind of shadowy, really natural effect on the surface and on the bottom of the aquarium. We've got the Kessil mounts here. Moving down to the actual aquarium, it measures 150 centimetres long, or 5 feet, by 60 centimetres front to back, or 2 feet, by 50 centimetres tall, which is just over 18 inches, 20 inches tall. That gives us a volume of 450 litres, or around 120 US gallons. Filtration is really interesting. We've got two OASE BioMaster 850 Thermos, OASE's flagship external filter. Huge fan of the BioMasters, as most of you will know by now. They come complete with a quick release pre-filter, built-in heaters, and something quite special about this particular system is that the filters are actually hard plumbed in to the aquarium. So the aquarium's been drilled and plumbed in, which allows us to, or allows Elliot, when he does his water changes, all he has to do is switch a couple of valves and he can do his 50% water change almost without any labour at all. We've got a couple of different outlets here, inlets next to them, and these are the drain and the refill parts here. We also have pressurised CO2. We've got a 5 kilogram fire extinguisher with inline CO2, and we've also got a auto doser for the liquid fertiliser. Also, very interesting, we've got an inline dechlorinator. This is basically a activated carbon reactor. So when the brand new water comes in through the mains, it goes through this carbon, that removes all the chlorine, and we can guarantee to have safe water for the livestock. So without further ado, let's start the scaping process. Okay, first stage of the aquascaping process is to install our substrate system. In this case, we're using Tropica Aquarium soil, proven performer. Probably used this in almost 100 scapes by now. It's a complete substrate system. What that means is you don't need to add a nutrient-rich base layer. You don't need to top it off with any sand or any other product. Just add it as it is, don't rinse it, and it will help your plants grow really well. It contains nutrients for the plant roots, and it also has a unique characteristic of taking in nutrients from the water, making those nutrients available to the plant roots. And we call this a high cation exchange capacity. So great product, proven performer. It does leach a little bit of ammonia, but that's no problem, especially with new filtration. All that's going to do is help seed those filters and allow you to stock your livestock, obviously once that ammonia has dropped to zero, which will probably be 2 to 3 weeks. Elliot is going to be doing large frequent water changes, which is obviously going to be very easy with his plumbed in system here. And yeah, let's get the substrate put in. Oh, before I carry on, this is the regular type, the Tropica Aquarium Soil regular, and then we also have the powder type. So we've got 3 9-litre bags of the normal type and 2 9-litre bags of the powder type. We put the powder type on top, and the reason for that is that it has a much smaller grain size, which makes it much easier to plant delicate rooted plants in, such as the Tropica 1-2 grey plants that we're using today. So the products themselves, the powder type and the normal type, exactly the same composition, exactly the same material, just a different grain size, so do bear that in mind. One of my favourite parts of the aquascaping process is the hardscape process. I often talk about how important it is, and that's because it's the backbone of the layout. If you start off with a really strong hardscape layout, it's really easy to create a strong aquascape. If you think of, if we only had tiny pieces of hardscape, it's really going to be tricky, challenging to create a strong entire aquascape. So for that reason, you know, really do spend some time, attention and even money on buying really good hardscape materials. I've got some of the best here. This is Super XL, super size, or I can't remember the name of it, but it's huge. It's like a generic bogwood. This has come from Aquarium Gardens, and I've got this huge piece and I've got a few smaller pieces. And I've already come up with a rough layout. In fact, when I was at Aquarium Gardens, I FaceTimed Elliot and made sure he was happy with the chosen hardscape, and we went through the design process together, which I think is, you know, technology does have its advantages, doesn't it, when you can do things like that. So we start off with a really strong hardscape layout, and then obviously we plant after that. So what I've done here, I've put the 3 bags of the regular soil in first. My intention is now to create the hardscape layout using these pieces of wood. I've also got some beautiful Frodo stone. We'll create the hardscape layout, and then what I'm going to do is put the soil powder around all of the hardscape. So it's just going to create a more natural look as the soil kind of comes up against the hardscape. And the overall aim is just to create something that looks, you know, high impact, beautiful, compositionally strong, well balanced. This hasn't been pre-soaked. It may want to float. So there's a few things we can do to help mitigate that risk. We could pre-soak it, which we haven't done. We can glue it to the base of the aquarium if we wanted to. JBL do a really good glue called Haru. We could bury it in the soil and then place the rocks on top of the wood, which is what we're going to do today. Or you can do a combination of any of those things. Okay, so that's the hardscape complete. We've used, I think, 4 pieces of the bogwood and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of Frodo stone, different sizes, all coming in similar textures. And I've deliberately positioned them so there's a distinct kind of flow, yet there's also some tension as well. In aquascaping, a lot of it's to do with balancing harmony and tension. If you think about an Iwagumi, for instance, which is a rock-only layout, we could go for a very kind of harmonious layout where everything kind of flows in the same direction. Alternatively, we could deliberately add loads of tension and you have the hardscape almost opposing each other deliberately. When we look at the strata, that's the natural lines in the hardscape, deliberately kind of diametrically opposed. So we've used a combination of those techniques here with the Frodo stone and the wood. I'm really happy with it. Most importantly, Elliot's really happy with it. The biggest piece of wood just sits proud above the top of the aquarium there. We could potentially grow some emergent plants out the top as well. I think Elliot's keen to have some moss growing. We do have an amazing plant selection, which I'll touch upon later. Now there is a risk that we'll get some tannin leaching from the wood. That's no problem. It's just going to stain the water potentially slightly, and that can be easily addressed with water changes or carbon filtration. Like I said before, the wood hasn't been pre-soaked, but I'm hopeful that I've positioned the wood and the rocks underneath the soil, all kind of interlocked into each other, so it kind of stays sunken down. So what we'll do when we do eventually fill up with water, and we'll keep a very, very close eye on the wood, if there's any movement at all because it might be wanting to float, we can simply put a large rock on the top and then wait for the wood to naturally stay submersed and then gently remove that rock after a few weeks, and everything's going to stay nice and stable. So now the hardscape's done, we are ready to plant. Very exciting. Who likes this t-shirt? This is actually a birthday present from my great friends Yuri's, Ryan Knoll and Alex Vella. Ryan Knoll, otherwise known as the Aquascaping Rhino on Instagram, collaborated with Moss Cotton, Yuri's as well. Alex Vella helped out with some animation stuff. But anyway, they've gifted me a load of beautiful t-shirts. I'll leave a link in the description for these. There's a Wabi Sabi t-shirt and there's an Amano Shrimp t-shirt. Anyway, if you like them, check them out in the links in the description and get yourself some great aquascaping merch. Okay, let's talk about the plants. I've got a variety, huge variety of species here. I think we've got 12 or 15 different species. We've got stems, we've got epiphytes, we've got rosettes, we've got even floaters, we've got rhizome plants, carpeting plants. Just to name a few species: Alternanthera mini, Marsilea crenata, Starogani repens, Eleocharis mini, Cryptocoryne undulatus red, Hygrophila pinnata feeder, Cryptocoryne crispatula, Hygrophila lancea araguaia, Cryptocoryne wendtii green, Blyxa japonica, Hygrophila siamensis 53b, Bucophilandra, Schismotoglatis pratoi, Ludwigia palustris red. I'll leave a complete species list in the description. The vast majority are Tropica. My favourite are the Tropica 1-2 grow. These have all been half prepared. I've removed them from the pots, rinsed off the nutrient-rich liquid, and now they're ready to split up into individual portions, ready to plant in the aquarium. If you want to find out more about these plants, a lot of them are featured on the Tropica YouTube channel with individual plant profiles, and including how to prepare them and where they come from in the nature, and how their growth characteristics, etc. I've done lots of detailed videos on plant prep, so I won't go into that right now. But just to say, it's really important to buy healthy plants from the beginning if you can. Have a word with your shop member of staff. Find out when they get their fresh delivery of plants and try to get them as soon as you can after that to guarantee healthy plants. And also really important to plant heavily from the beginning. This is going to really help avoid the early algae issues that we often experience with new aquascapes. Also a good idea to plant some of those plants as fast growing either stem plants or floating plants. In our case, we've got the Hygrophila coriambosa siamensis 53b, an absolute weed, and also Ludwigia super red, which again is a bit of a weed. So the faster the plants are growing, the healthier those plants are, the less chance of algae we get. If we always think about plants and algae in competition with each other, the healthier the plants are, the more of them there are, the better we look after those plants, the better we maintain our aquarium, the less chance of algae we get. Algae is the number one reason people give up the hobby. Very few people like to see nuisance algae, so it's really worthwhile investing in a good quantity of healthy plants from the outset, and that's what we've done here today. I think we've used 40 pots altogether, and the great thing about the Tropica 1-2 grow is you get so many little plants for your money. This is one pot here of the Eleocharis acicularis mini, and you can, top tip, you can actually unravel it like so, and then split it into individual portions. And then we just plant each one of those with tweezers, and eventually we get a solid lawn, for instance. So this will go in the foreground along with the Starogani and the Alternanthera mini. Going to mix it up with some Marsilea crenata for some added textures. Moving towards the background, we've got the smaller crypts. We've got some Hygrophila pinnata feeder, which we can use as an epiphyte, along with the Hygrophila lancea araguaia. We've got some Blyxa japonica, which we'll just use as some spiky accents here and there. And then all the epiphytes will just wedge into between the wood and the rocks. And finally, the stem plants, these will get planted in the background. So I'll fully prepare these now, and then we'll plant them in the tank, and we'll do a time lapse for that because it's going to take a good couple of hours, I would suggest. Okay, that was hard work. Planted fully, 40 pots all prepared, put in, really wide variety of plants as discussed. Check out the full plant species list in the description. I'm really happy with it actually, a real complex mix of textures, colours, a classic mix for me, Java ferns. Most people know that I love my Java ferns. There's crypts in there. We've got some fast growing stems in the back, carpeting foreground species. Interestingly, using a couple of different epiphyte plants to usual. That's the Schismatoglottis praetoi. That's this one here. It's really fascinating actually. It looks very similar to Anubias and it can be grown as an epiphyte, but it can also be planted in the substrate. So I've got some in the substrate down here and then some as an epiphyte around here. We've glued some moss on here. All the other epiphytes have just been wedged into the hardscape. For those that don't know, epiphyte means a plant that attaches to something else. So we've got the Java ferns here. We've got some Hygrophila pinnifida, Hygrophila araguaia as epiphytes as well. Bucophilandras around here. Some splashes of colour. We've got Alternanthera, reineckii mini here. We've got a lotus lily here. We've got Ludwigia super red. We've got some Cryptocoryne undulatus red. So plenty of colour in here, which is going to be great. We've got some really strong lighting with the Kessils. That's really going to help those colours pop as well. So now it's time to fill up with water. It's going to be a very interesting process. We fill automatically with the mains. We'll do a time lapse of that because we want to do it nice and slowly. The last thing we want to do is have cloudy water. So we'll fill it up now and yeah, get all the filters running, the CO2 running and see what it looks like later. Can't wait to show you guys. Okay, there we go, the scape's complete. I'm really happy with it, Elliot's happy with it, Lucy's happy with it, Sky's happy with it. Are you happy with it, Sky? Yeah. Yeah, cool. And I think Nala's happy with it. Where's Nala gone? A long day. I think I got up at 6 AM this morning. It's now 8, is it, what is it, 7:30? What's the time? Yeah, 7:30. 7:30. So long old day, but absolutely worthwhile. I love creating aquascapes for friends and I've had such a great day. It's the first big aquascape I've done in a long time, since before lockdown actually. So it's really great to create something special for some lovely people and I'm sure the family are gonna love this scape in the long term. And I've invited myself down again in a few months to do an update on this beautiful tank. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it as well. Let me know in the comments what fish would you put in here. Elliot's got some ideas already. I've briefed Elliot on what he needs to do maintenance wise. Really easy because it's all plumbed in. All the water change stuff is really simple. Maintaining the filters is really easy. OASE, BioMaster, pre-filter, super simple. We've planted really heavily, mostly of Tropica plants of course, Tropica Aquarium soil, CO2 injection. I'm just excited to see this one develop. I'm sure me and Elliot will stay in touch. She'll probably send me some photos as it's developing. It's been a hugely successful day. Everyone's happy and yeah, I hope you are too. So you take care guys. That's the wrong way around. I normally say, take care, keep on scaping. Cheerio. There we go. All done. Was that okay, Sky? Yeah? Cool.
Is it funny watching someone do it in reality?